Welcome to Vibe Check. My name is Megan. I'm a healer and an author. And this is where the space where we help change your perspective to help change our vibe. In the last podcast, I talked about how there's a small part where we start to have the awakening where we start to see coincidences all the time. I just thought about that person. And then they texted me. I wish I had this. And then it shows up on the door the next day. That these coincidences are actually called synchronicities. And coincidences have kind of like the background and the feeling that they're random and unplanned, and synchronicities are more of the thought that they're a path, that that's you that's doing that this is support of the universe, a gift from the universe. And I had the wildest synchronicity come up, and I want to be able to talk about how subtle, how obvious they can be, and how subtle they can be. So, the science behind coincidences and synchronicities is your reticular activating system, your RAS, that when you bring something into your focus and into your awareness, you all of a sudden start to see it everywhere. The most common example of this as a red car goes by is like you're going to buy a new car, you're looking at cars, and then all of a sudden, all you can see is that car. And it's like, oh, there's no red cars around. And then all of a sudden, every time you go for a drive, there's all these red cars. This can happen too, that you start to see like 11:11, and it's every time you pick up your phone, every time you look at the clock, every time that you notice the time, it's saying 11:11, that it's activating in your system. This is your brain looking for evidence of safety into reinforcing a pattern and a thought and a belief, turning it into a belief. And how this can happen in a way that's very unconscious and undeliberate. And then it can also happen in a way that's very deliberate and very intentional, which can also help aid in our manifesting. So, a lot of the times when it's, how do I want to start this off? Where do I want this to go? What do I want to teach you? What do I want to serve with? That when we first start to notice these, like the red car, the 11:11, like, oh man, it was just like, it just seems like you keep getting the same thing all the time. There's part of us that are like, oh, it's the algorithm, just because I clicked on that. But then there's also this part of it's like the energetic side, that you're at the same frequency of that thing. And it can be it can be frustrating because, like, say you want, I don't know, a new Coach bag. You have your schools, I'm like, school's coming up, that you have your heart on a specific backpack or a certain purse, certain pair of boots, like a particular item. And then all of a sudden you start to see it everywhere, and it seems like everybody else has it but you, which can feel very frustrating. Instead of looking at it as a way of like, oh man, I'm like really bringing this into my awareness. It's only a matter of time before I experience it, my own reality. And I also have this thing, because you're seeing it everywhere. So you're like gathering evidence that, like, this is, you're normalizing it. This can be a great thing. When it's unintentional and zero fun is when you have negative thought patterns and you're like, oh man, I never make the bills on time. There's never enough money. I'm always going to be alone. The dating world sucks. My job blows. Like, oh no, I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. That this is also moving the energy. That it's like when you have those negative thought patterns with that, then your RAS, your reticular activating system, starts to collect evidence of that and will then manifest that into your reality. So it's like, oh man, every date that you do go on does suck. And I'm like, oh man, all these experiences, you are feeling really alone. I'm like, oh man, work just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. That's because it's just bringing into your experience what you're thinking about, what you've activated. But you can be deliberate about that, and with intention, start to bring in better feeling things, not things that just feel random or out of your control. You're like, oh, and this is where the gratitude practice comes in, that, oh, well, I am so grateful for this, and I'm so grateful for this. And you're intentionally thinking, feeling, wanting to experience gratitude I'm so grateful that I have a home to live in, and power, and hot water, and flushing toilets, and a sewage system, and food in the fridge, and a general overall being of health, and that the sun is shining, and that my car works. And even if there's what feels like a little, like there's money in the account, that when you can feel into that gratitude and feel into that experience and be deliberate about the more positive side of things, you start to experience more there. Like, oh man, I'm all of a sudden getting good mail, or like I'm getting a great parking spot everywhere I go. You're like, man, the power bill was less than I thought there was going to be. There's a credit on this. Like, Amazon sent me the wrong thing, but it actually works out better. The When you start to be intentional and deliberate about that, it goes from feeling like you're out of control and there's these random coincidences and life sucks, versus I'm in control. I have the capability always to change my thoughts and feelings and emotions, which will then change my behaviors, which then change my experiences, and how both are manifesting. And these coincidences and these synchronicities are here, I believe, to be able to help reinforce a belief that we have, for the good or for the better. They are here as breadcrumbs, as signs for our higher self, as a gift from God or creator and the universe that we're co-creating, that is like, hey, this is a little message from future you that this is going to be in your experience. Like, I keep seeing 444 everywhere. What does that mean? And then you look it up and you're like, oh, I really am on the right path. That makes me feel really good about this job that I'm going to do. Oh, I got hit with the grass. I've seen like 6 grasshoppers today. What's the spiritual meaning of a grasshopper? Oh, it's all about abundance and prosperity. You're like, that's weird, but I like it and it feels good. That means I'm on the right path. That these synchronicities and these experiences that you're having mean that it's coming into your experience. It helps reinforce your thought that turns into a belief, that turns into a manifested experience for the better. That these signs and symbols and what it might mean to you are the universe and energy, God, your higher self, whatever you want to call it, whatever you may want to believe in, because we're not here to convince anybody. We're just here to offer a different perspective, that it's coming, it's prepared. Like, this is how I like to think of synchronicities, is they're here to prepare you. They're here to get you excited. They're here to show you a path. They're here to help validate a feeling. My feeling with signs and symbols, I think signs and symbol mean a lot of different things to a lot of people. I think that there is different realms and ancestry and heritage behind different signs and symbols. You have to find the one that resonates the most with you, with things. That it's not about acquiescing to your own request and just creating this like almost how do I want to say that, like you're spiritually bypassing it by always like it's almost like almost narcissistically positive reinforcing yourself into decisions that may or may not be good for you, knowing that different signs and different feelings in your intuition are presenting with something different, because you can talk yourself in or out of anything and present evidence for inner, like either one being a good idea, also knowing that there's no wrong answer. That when you're asking for a sign, you already know what it is that you want. What you're looking for is just that reinforced validation from the universe, from God, from your future self, from your higher self, that that indeed is the one that feels the best for you. I do feel like this is kind of rambly and a little bit ungrounded with it. But it's also, as I start talking about it, I just keep seeing all these signs and like what people have asked for. It's like, show me this. This is what I want. These are the signs. There's just been some wild signs and experiences that I've had in my lifetime. Like, I'm not even that old yet. That it's just, it can be really mind blowing how they show up sometimes. That these synchronicities, and you're like, they have been in the works for years. Like, I remember it's like manifesting deliberately and intentionally bringing in a lover and like a man into my life. having one of my favorite books be just like that man, having that man say those things that is in that book that was written in like the 70s. So it's like when you think about how like an author had to have that seed planted in their head, write it, edit it, publish it, have that book circulate, have me find that book somehow, read it, love it, keep it, and then have that same thing manifested. Like there, it's just like there are signs that are like years in the making, years for like the truck or the car that you need to see drive by you at that time for like it's just wild when you start to think about it and how some things happen and you're like, statistically speaking, how is that even possible for that to happen? How's that even possible? And I think this is like the magic of the universe, and this is the magic of co-creating with God and Creator, and being able to look at this world on an energetic and frequency, and even just seeing the world as signs along the way, and how everything has meaning. I remember getting into so many arguments with like ex-boyfriends, like, not everything has meaning, Megan. I'm like, oh no, everything's got meaning. Everything, because that's the way I see the world, that there's these things, and I get to choose how I have it work for me or what that means, or, like, but I think that really what it comes down to is I just have, like, this I have an insatiable curiosity as to, and this is, like, the seeker in me, is to what the lesson is, and not necessarily the lesson, but, like, what's the message? What am I to hear? How can I listen? As a way to be able to expand my experience here on this planet. And this whole once again, very rambly podcast. And it made me think about it because I just went to the library. I have two very large stacks of books beside me. And when I look for books, when books find me, that I'll see them on social media and I'll take a screenshot, or I'll go into a bookstore and take a picture of it. I only purchase and invest in my favorites. I think libraries are they're like one of the best things to come out of the patriarchy. And they're this beautiful gift to our culture and to our communities, being able to source that. But just like the amount of reading that I do, it's like the library provides such structure and capability for me. But I just want to show you how wildly nuanced that some of the synchronicities can be. So I want to say it was last week. It was last weekend. I don't know, time's a construct. It would have been last week sometime. Okay, here we go. It's during Mercury retrograde. I found a bunch of boxes of belongings from exes in my life, past people in my life, my old wedding ring, that I burnt everything in the boxes and or donated it. I sold my wedding ring. I just really cleared some space. I'm like, what is it that I want to have in this space instead? I'm like, I am looking for protection and safety, whether that comes through my business, whether that comes through that energy of money, whether that comes through a lover and a man, whether that comes through a further relationship with God, whatever it may be. This is what I'm intentionally manifesting into my experience, is a protector and that feeling of safety. That for me is like what the full moon has called for and what I am intentionally manifesting into my life. So when I manifest, I am in I am focused on being prepared for that thing to happen in my reality. So I'm like, okay, what do I need to do and this is how I think this is what my meditations are, this is what my journaling practices are, that it's like, what do I need to do to get ready for this? What do I need to let go of to allow this to happen? Do I just need to allow it? What's my inspired action to follow through with it? Whatever it may be. So that I'm thinking about this, I'm journaling about this, I'm recognizing feelings and emotions and thought patterns that are tied to this. And I'm like, oh man, like I'm not allowing anybody to protect me. And like, oh, I do push things away with this. It's like, oh, I'm not really allowing myself to receive with this. Or like, will I, as I step into this next level as a healer, will I allow someone who is protective in my life in a way that's healthy? Because I've been in an abusive relationship before. So that protector was like not, they present as a protector, but they're not. That it's like, am I at a place where I can recognize my own triggers, be able to communicate them to who I'm in a relationship with to be able to do it. So these are all these things that I'm thinking about as I'm burning this stuff from like the exes in my life. Or I'm having a great night out with my girlfriends from the money that I received from selling my old wedding ring and making investments into different avenues and things in my life. That I, after that weekend, go to the library and pick up, I don't know, 20 different holds that I have. I don't even know how long some of these have been on. I can't even remember where some of these books have come from, if I've like just picked them off the shelf for staff picks or if I've requested them and they've been on hold for me to come pick up when they're available. But the nuances of how it all came to be is just beautiful. And this is what I want to share with you. So the first book that I read is called The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. And I think this was a book that was like on the staff picks. And it's all about how she's the bodyguard and the protector and how he has to allow himself to be protected. What that means to his family, how their relationship develops, the trust that they have in each other. There's a couple lines in the book. I'm like, oh, I have read that book just for that one line because I really needed to hear that. How I can recognize my own behaviors and thought patterns in both her and him as his bodyguard, like Force F. So it like devoured this book, read it in like a day. I think I read it in a day. It was absolutely delicious. And I'm like, man, that's just so funny that I had just requested to God, set the intention that I'm ready for my protector. I am focusing on being intentional about making decisions based on protection and based on safety as I expand into like this new role and this new era in my life as a more embodied healer, that this book shows up. I'm like, huh, that's curious. And then I go to my stack and I pick up the next book, which is called The True Love Experiment. It's by Christina Lauren. On the back of it, there's nothing more fun than Christina Lauren. A review by Catherine Center, New York Times best-selling author of The Bodyguard, which is the book that I just fucking read. And this is like not her only book. So it's like the fact that this book that I picked up, read, this is what I'm like, I didn't even see what the book was about. All I saw was this jumping out at me that, hey, that book that you just read ties into this energetically somehow because it's being like it's on the back of it. I'm like, what are the chances of that? Minimal. I started reading this book. It's a secondary book to it's a follow-up book? Yeah, follow-up book to another book that I had read before, which was delightful. I have no recollection of why this book was on my list. If I saw it on social media, if it was just on my book, I'm like, oh, I like this author. The author was mentioned somewhere, whatever it may be. And then I started reading about it, and it talks about how she's a best-selling author and a writer and allowing someone else to be making decisions and working in partnership with it. Again, reading a couple of lines in here. Oh, I should have flagged it beforehand because I read it and I'm like, oh my God, this book's about me and my behaviors and how I act. And then thinking about it, that it's like even the books I read before this were also about a writer and about how writers live their life and how people don't accept them for who they are. Where the is that book? Because it's like I'm like, okay, like this is all, I am bringing this into my experience. The emotions that I'm having while I'm reading these books are allowing me to heal things that I wouldn't have been able to do, not like unless I was in a relationship or being able to identify as a fictional character. Yeah, but even the books I read, that's gonna drive me nuts now. The two, like before I read these two books, the book that I read before that, it was all about this writer and about how, like, will this man accept her for how she is as a writer? That when you get these ideas in your head, that it's like you're as an artist, that's who you are. Like, there's not a, it's extremely difficult to compartmentalize that energy, that you have to have something like come out of you, which needs to also be like a very protected space with things. So I'm just like, man, I am really bringing this into my experience. I also think this is why like you can heal s- just as much of yourself through fiction, through romance, through books like this as you can with personal development and self-help. And I think they actually really tie in quite nicely together, because what you learn in self-help, what you learn from personal development, what you learn in therapy, what you learn in your Reiki sessions when you come in, then applies to life, and it's easier to see ourselves and other people in these characters in these books than it is maybe to have this awareness of like, oh man, that I do, yeah, I pick guys like that for sure. Yep, that's how, like, this is, I'm doing the exact same thing as the lead female character in this book again. How great is that? When you bring, but then I'm like, now when it's gonna happen in real life, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what happened. This is why I like am attracted to this person, because it's trying to like close this loop and understanding with that. How fun is that? How great is it that that synchronistic ability of having to like me being drawn to read this book at this time, to have this book in my experience, like helps really support my healing. And then this movie has been on my to watch forever, and it's The Bodyguard with Whitney Houston and Kevin Costner. And I have been hearing Whitney Houston's, what is it? The I Will Always Love You, and singing in my head, I will not sing it out loud, on the radio every time I get into the car. And I don't listen to the radio. I always hook up to my Spotify. So the fact that I'm always listening, I'm like, why does this song keep coming up? Look, I'm like, what's this song? Look it up. It's tied to this movie, The Bodyguard. Okay, let's watch it. Finally watched it last night. Oh yeah, it's all about a woman leading through fame in her life, having a man protect her, and the relationship that they have with that, the trust, like what you're seeing, how the relationship and how expansive and contractive it can be to be in that role. But I think it's also for me to be able to watch that and understand what it's like to be a protector, so that I can understand it when it comes into my life more. Like, this is more difficult. I can work with you for this. It's just not me doing this and you like catching up. This is like a active relationship of allowing yourself to be protected. That's what I got from the movie The Bodyguard. So it's like, what are the chances that within the scope of a week that these things unintentionally by me have come into my experience to help me get ready, to help me heal, to help me release, to help me allow, to help me understand, to help me to be more curious about what's coming up for my life. And there's a part of me that I'm like, oh God, like, what does this mean? And then there's other part of me, I'm like, oh man, I'm like really bringing this into my experience. I cannot wait to see how this shows up at my door in my reality in the next couple of weeks. It can be really, really subtle. It doesn't always have to be the 444 or the 1111, or like keep seeing bluebirds everywhere you go, or whatever it may be. It can be as subtle as just like the thread of the understanding of the bodyguard, of the protector. And like, I'm not, it's hard because it's one of those things, I'm like, I'm not looking for it, but like, this is my life. This is how I see the world, is through these patterns and through these signs and through these like threads of connection with everything. It helps me create understanding. It helps guide my curiosity. It's how I like to move through this world, is seeing it from this way. Not that it's good or bad or any different than anybody else. It's just how I operate. Is seeing these synchronicities, and like they're like their decision, like the weight of a synchronicity is a decision maker for me. That you can use, I remember, who was it? It was Danielle Laporte, who is an author and a speaker. I saw her speak, and I remember somebody asked her about, like, how do you know if you're in the right relationship or wherever it may be? And she had this great piece, and I think about this often, about how she said that you know when to stop, or that you've done enough, or you've done all you can when the synchronicities stop. So it's like, regardless if you're thinking about it from an aspect of a job or from a lover, from a relationship, friendship, whatever it may be, I don't know, maybe it's somewhere you're living. As soon as the synchronicities stop, then it's like that's when you're trying to control the situation, is not serving anymore. But if there's synchronicities, oh, I was just thinking about that. Oh, every time around this person, there's butterflies. Oh, like I keep like the grasshopper thing, like whatever those signs may be with things, that it's supporting you through something in a way that's positive. It's guiding you somewhere. It's like these, I just think of like Hansel and Gretel, the beautiful breadcrumbs that go through and guide you through life. Which is funny because I watched iRobot with my teenage kids with Will Smith. And that's like the basis of the movie is the breadcrumbs. Hansel and Gretel, he leaves all these clues to put together. But because he sees the world a different way, he can see the clues in a different way, which lead him to the result that best serves everybody involved. I'm like, maybe not everybody, because a couple guys like get knocked off. But you know what I mean. I just love seeing this world through this way. I just think it's so magical. And I think it creates like my own internal guide. Like I don't need the external validation of other people's opinions for things. Sometimes they can be really nice depending on who you're asking. But because I have this connection with the synchronicities and I have this understanding, that it really reinforces my own intuition and my own internal knowing, that I'm like, I I it's weird because it's like it's an external cue, but internally it gives me the validation of, yes, like this is supported. This is magic. It's like these things wouldn't be happening unless this was important. So maybe next time you'll just see something a little bit different when you see that 1111. And I think that when you first start seeing those synchronicities, just being able to say thank you for the sign. I acknowledge it, where you understand that that's how powerful you are, how powerful your relationship is with the universe or God or co-creator, like whatever you may have or be yet. That's like the start of something. And I think it'd be the start of a super magical life. Thanks again for listening.